Welcome to the Late Night Race Review. The sprint race is back and the fans are divided. Max actually has some overtaking to do. Does Lando's new mustache make him a better driver? Or is it the upgrades at McLaren? There's penalties to be had for track limits. And there's one for everybody in the audience. It's the Austrian GP. Don't forget to support the podcast by hitting those like, follow and subscribe buttons. Welcome back to the Late Night Race Review. I am Owen Scott, and with me as always is Dave Jericho and Isidro Consalvish. Well, on a weekend where there was more orange on show than a 12th of July parade, the Dutch Master showed yet again why he sits so far ahead in the Drivers' Championship. Time to stock and get the fastest lap as well. Max really was immense this weekend, Dave, wasn't he?
Do you know, I'm sick of just talking about Max Verstappen each week. There's nothing else we can say about him. He won the race. It was comfortable. I was disappointed. I thought there was there was a moment there during the strategies, especially during the virtual safety car and when all the tire changes were being made. I thought when they left Verstappen out, just there was a moment there. I thought when the tires weren't kind of lasting as long as I thought, Jesus, I think Red Bull might have backed themselves into a corner here and made a mistake leaving him out. But lo and behold, the mighty Max Verstappen does it again and disappoints the rest of us.
Well, I think that a lesser driver, it probably would have been a mistake today because, I mean, it dropped him well behind Sainz and Leclerc and he had to battle, well, not battle, but he had to get his way back to first again. Any lesser of a driver, do you think maybe that it would have actually been a mistake?
It would have made no difference because the Ferraris came out on the medium tires, so they had to make another pit stop. So when he came back out, he was, I think he was about 14 seconds behind Leclerc and 6 seconds or something behind Sainz. I think it was something like that, wasn't it? So, like, worst case, like, what was he wasn't going to drop back on any further than that. So, as soon as I saw that, I was like, yeah, he's got this again. So, but look, amazing job. But I think the chatter is all about his teammate, though. I think.
Yeah, it seems to be. I don't want to move on just yet. I really felt that today was a little bit different for Max than previous races. So I'm going to dig into that a little bit. Isidro, after the safety cars and Max came out behind Sainz and Leclerc, he made his way by Sainz. And then there was a little bit of a battle with Leclerc. Can you talk to me a little bit about that maneuver where he came up to the safety car line and just held himself back a little bit so that he'd have the DRS coming out the other side?
Yeah, that was another brilliant strategy that Max came out just on the point, and the way he used that line and the DRS just go over Leclerc just shows how he's well above everyone else. The fact that 2 laps before the end, he just said, I want to do a fastest lap. Let's go in, change tires. While everyone on the team was like, are you sure it's just for 1 extra point and you could lose 7? But he was just not confident on himself, but confident that the team would not screw up. That was the most important bit.
Dave?
All right, I'll have to concede. Yeah, that was fucking boss. That was class. Like, I was just, you had, what do you have, 3 seconds to play with? If there was a fuck up, like he had 3 seconds outside of the pit window, and or the time it takes to take a pit stop, and that was just ballsy. That was class. That was really class.
Do you feel, now this is a question that I was thinking about all day, really. Do you feel we're being robbed of the brilliance of Max Verstappen's driving by Red Bull giving him such a dominant car? We miss all of these little things, like his little battle with Leclerc. His actual driving skill hasn't been on show at all, really, for the last, say, 5 races, if not for the entire season. He's not battling anyone. He's away out front, and you don't see it. Whereas today we saw a little bit of it. Do you think we are being robbed as the fans of all of Max fans are being robbed of Max this year?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, of course. Like, it would be great to see him in sort of the one-on-one battles or in amongst the rest of the drivers and seeing him actually fight for for positions. But at the same time, what you're seeing is a guy who's able to, like, when everybody else is struggling on tires, yeah, okay, he comes over the radio and he complains about the tires and stuff, but he's just able to make the tires. He's just able to make that car go longer than everybody else can with their car. He just has such a connection with the car that he's just able to finesse it when it needs to be and drive the bollocks out of it when it needs to be. So as much as we're not seeing him in those kind of battles too often, we are seeing another side of his skill set, that sort of, that, I suppose, that ability to, that patience, I suppose, and like I said, preserving the car when need be, and driving it hard when need be as well. So yeah, it's just a completely different skill set. But I suppose for us, we want to see the wheel-to-wheel racing and not the saving the life of a tire.
Yeah. Isidro, go.
I wonder if once Max is maybe 3 or 4 points of winning the championship, he decide one race just to crash and start from last and see if he can finish first. Just to get some action from him.
It'd be nice, and he would. In fairness,
did I hear someone say? I don't know whether it was someone in the group or something like that, in the F1 group that we have. Was it someone made the suggestion that they should stick, like, if after the summer break, that Max pretty much has it sewn up, to make it a little bit more challenging, and stick Max in the vacant AlphaTauri seat when the inevitable Nick de Vries is given the boot.
Yeah, that would be funny. In fairness,
that would be fucking wonderful. Someone
said today, I think it was on Sky Sports, that he could actually go on his summer holidays now and still come back and be in such a dominant position after the summer break. He could literally just take an early summer break.
Well, do you know, if you take away Perez's points, he's leading the Constructors' Championship for Red Bull just on his points alone.
Incredible, incredible. We're on the cusp of brilliance here. I know we kind of knew what was coming with Max, but he's a Lewis level, he's a Schumacher level. He really is one of the greatest drivers of, I'd say, this generation and generations to come.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So Perez, let's talk a little bit about Perez, and close to a driver of the day performance, finally showing some form, and an excellent drive from 15th in the grid to finishing third and grabbing that last podium. He went a long way to reminding Red Bull why he still has that number 2 seat this weekend, doesn't he, Isidro?
Yeah, it started with the sprint race, where he really, I think he showed that he's not gone yet from Red Bull, and it really, he was able to piss Max Verstappen during the sprint race. And this weekend, this Sunday, with the race coming from 15 and finish P3, I think we can, maybe Perez is back, or it's too soon to say that, but he's definitely showed today that Red Bull should not forget him, or should not let him go, or start thinking about replacing him.
Dave, what do you think of Perez this weekend?
Oh, he was great. Really, really good. Had a great drive there. And like you say, I mean, you could argue for either him or Lando Norris for driver of the day today. Like, I mean, he did I think he gained 12 places, I think, today, didn't he? So yeah, phenomenal. But I don't know. Perez is back. Yeah, no. I don't. Sorry, is he?
Yeah.
That's like
too soon.
Yeah. That's like when
question. Is Perez back?
Or was it a question? Okay, well then the answer is no. I don't know. I think I'm going to be really harsh on this one. Like, even though he had a great result today, and like he had a great race pace. I mean, he had a bit of a fuck up then, and obviously the quali. Like, I mean, yeah, I suppose everybody went and exceeded the track limits and stuff like that this weekend, all through the weekend. So I suppose you can't really kind of blame him too much on that one. But I don't know. I mean, we'll wait till Silverstone. If he has a good result in Silverstone, then maybe we'll say, okay, he's sort of maybe a little bit more comfortable in that Red Bull seat for possibly next season. But at this moment in time, I'd say Helmut Marko still has his Rolodex out, looking at who he can call for next season. With Daniel Ricciardo with his little flag up in the back.
Speaking of Daniel Ricciardo, there was glimmers there the day before that Checo was sick and possibly Daniel Ricciardo was going to be hopping into the Red Bull. Was anyone else excited maybe to see that just for one race, maybe?
I think I saw that kind of those comments and stuff a little bit too late. I saw it when Checo was already in the free practice,
Oh,
and
okay.
I was kind of like, that kind of that hope is lost on me now.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see what he would do with this Red Bull car.
I think there's more chance Daniel Ricciardo will drive the AlphaTauri in the second half of the season than he will be in the Red Bull. I genuinely think De Vries is gone. Like, I mean, I don't think there's anything he can do short of being on the podium in one of the next 3 races. I just like he was so error prone today, lockups and just he just driving around like he was driving a shopping cart. It was, I just don't, he's doing nothing for me. And I said it last season. You can go back and check it on the podcast if you like. I thought everyone jumped the gun when they were like, oh yeah, let's give him a drive, based on what? The one good results that Williams had on Monza, I think it was, on a track that was suitable for a car that was great in a straight line, that was rapid, quick in a straight line. And he managed to get a few points, or he managed to get 1 point or whatever he got.
2 points.
And then all of a sudden he gets the fucking Formula One drive based on, like, what the fuck? No. He's gone. Kick him out.
If I wasn't so lazy, I'd go back and I'd edit that into the podcast later, but I'm not going to do that, just so we know.
Yeah, that's a lot of effort to know where I actually said that. I'm guessing it's after Monza, but
yeah, I presume it was that podcast. Actually, probably, yeah. Let's see if that makes it in. You'll find out later on. So let's talk a little bit about Ferrari today. Big strides this week, and maybe putting some distance between themselves and Mercedes. You could clearly see there's a pace difference when Sainz was chasing Hamilton. And is there a bit of daylight between the two cars now, or was this track specific today for Ferrari, Dave?
Sorry, the daylight between which two cars? The
Mercedes and the Ferrari.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, I still don't know quite what happened to the Mercedes today. They were awful.
Yeah.
And it's funny, we said this every every fucking week. Mercedes have a good result. We hear Toto saying, like, and every week we say the same thing on the fucking podcast. Toto comes out and says, oh, we've got a handle on the car now. We understand what's happening. We've got upgrades. They're going to blah, 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 blah. Yeah, grand. And they have a good result. And we're all like, hey, Mercedes are back. And they've got on top of the car. And then, the shit show's around the corner. And here's the shit show again on time. Like, I mean, it's like the fucking, you could set your watch to Mercedes fucking shit show at the moment. So I think that being said, I do think they'll correct this for Silverstone. I think they would be much more competitive. I think Ferrari were, I know we're not talking about Mercedes, sorry, but I think Ferrari were a little bit of a weird one, like, because they had great pace in the qualifying, then sort of disappeared on the Saturday. Really, they were all over the show on the Saturday for the sprint qualifying and or shootout quali, whatever the fuck they call it. And Jesus, my enthusiasm today.
Yeah.
And the sprint race, they were well off the pace. And then today they had the pace, but they decided just to sabotage themselves a little bit, I found, at the start of the race. So before we get onto the race, in terms of the gap between the cars, and I know I have gone a long way around answering this question. I think I think Mercedes maybe are still. I think they're still level pegging on the dev race. I think Mercedes just had a shit show this weekend, and I think they'll correct it. And I think there's more shit shows to be had in Ferrari than there is in Mercedes.
Yeah, good option there. Cedro. Ferrari this weekend. Bring us on to how they actually did. Let's talk about Charles first of all. Not a whole deal really going on here. I didn't notice him that much. He seemed to be just keeping his head down, other than giving out around the double stack maybe. But largely a decent result for Charles and Ferrari this weekend.
Yeah, it was a decent result, and Charles was almost invisible. I mean, he was the leader of the race for a few minutes, but that was it. Otherwise, it was just a surprising good day for Ferrari.
Mm.
I was looking forward to see if Sainz would start attacking Leclerc, but down the road that didn't happen, and Sainz ended up not fighting Leclerc, but rather fighting between Norris and Hamilton.
Mm.
But overall, I think the Ferrari is showing more improvements, and I think Sainz is clearly a faster driver than Leclerc. The way I see it, I think Ferrari should start prioritize Sainz if they need, rather than putting Leclerc always first, like I did last race. But overall, I think I saw improvements today on Ferrari.
Yeah. Dave, talk to me a little bit just about Carlos Sainz. He was in the trenches a lot more than Leclerc was today. He won't be too displeased with his finish, although he'll probably be more displeased now with the news that he's been dropped back. Was it 2 positions or 1 position? Where is he now?
Two positions, but I think he finished 6th now, I think, after that. But I think he'll be fucking raging, because I was watching it and I was screaming at the TV because it was so annoying watching Ferrari constantly fuck up. They had so at the start of the race, it was clear Sainz was the faster driver. Now, I'm not saying like over the course of the 71 laps or 71 laps that either Ferraris were going to beat out Max Verstappen, but judging on what we saw at the start of the race, Sainz was clearly faster than Leclerc. And I was kind of watching, I was going, what, like, why isn't he going past? Like, I mean, he must, like, there hadn't been any radio calls yet kind of broadcast to say that he was, that he was told to hold station, but that it was clear this was the case. Like, so you're like, the gap got to 5 seconds or something like that, and there was another radio call, I think, from Carlos Sainz hinting that he was the faster driver, and sort of, I think he said something to the effect of, something like, I think you can see what's going on or something like that. I think, just hinting that, let me go kind of thing, and they didn't. They said, I think, let me just check here. I had the notes here. What lap was it at? So yeah. After the virtual safety car, then, sorry, I'm just checking here my notes. So yeah, I think it was lap 10, Sainz was told again not to attack Leclerc, and you're like, he's the faster driver, let him go, like, and I'll be honest, I think Sainz needs to be a bit more ballsy and kind of say, sort of ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah, just do it.
He should have just gone for it and just been like, fuck this. Like, I'm sitting behind a guy in 3rd place here. I have the potential to catch up with Max Verstappen. And at worst case, slow up Max Verstappen, burn up his tires more, at least try and do something Ferrari. But no, they stuck with the 2 and the 3 and didn't really try and do anything. And then obviously they thought, when the everyone was coming in for the pit stops under the sort of the end of the virtual safety car, they decided to double stack, and that's where Max Verstappen stayed out. Now, I thought at the time, well, that was a bad decision from Max Verstappen, but then it turned out it was a worse decision from Ferrari, because they double stacked, and not only did they not leave someone out to cover Max Verstappen, the Red Bull strategy, and sort of split their strategy, because they were never going to beat them by double stacking. So the best thing to do was to at least have one driver on their own strategy and another driver matching Verstappen. That probably should have been Carlos Sainz in reality. And instead, no, they brought them both in, double stacked, fucked up Sainz's stop. I think there was a fuck up with the front left during the pit stop, so slowed up his pit stop. And that was just at the pit stop. I think there was an extra second maybe on his pit stop. But leading up to that pit stop, he had to drive extra slow because Leclerc was still in the pit box. So he lost even more time just driving down the pit lane. It was just a shit show. And then they come out, and I think it was on like lap 20 or something like that. I think it was. Or was it that late into it? And Ferrari come out and ask Charles Leclerc, does he want to go for a 3-stop strategy? a fucking 3-stop strategy. Like, what are you doing? A drive across the country? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
what the hell? I mean, it was clear at that point that Max Verstappen had a set of hard tires on, and their aim was to go as certainly, if not as long to the end of the race, as long as possible. That would only require a 2-stop.
Yeah.
And they're talking about a 3-stop. Like, I lost all fucking sense of what was right and wrong in that moment in time. Like,
The Ferrari pit wall seems to have a holistic approach to race strategies. They're just like, let's just see what happens. We'll feel it out. And most of the time, that's completely wrong.
they're reading tea leaves and someone's taking a shit into the teacup.
Yeah, horrible. But improving, possibly good signs for Ferrari that the two cars are actually performing pretty well. They just have to, again, like we said all of last season, start to actually get it right on the pit wall.
But we've been saying that this season as well. We've been saying that the car's been making improvements, and we've been saying there's been a disjoint between the drivers and the trust between the drivers and the pit wall. I mean, this just fucking cements that. I mean, they're just unable to make a decision. It's like a fear of being wrong and taking the right. You know, I don't know what they're fucking doing. It's yeah. Ferrari.
But let's move.
I need to take a Xanax or something.
Yeah,
Like
let's move away. Oh, you want to talk about more about the
Jesus.
side? Oh, okay, Cedra, go on.
Cedra's got a can of petrol in his hand.
Go on, light it up there.
Maybe Ferrari is afraid that what happened to the last guy that tried to be ballsy in Ferrari and tried to do things and apologize later, and see what happened to poor Binotto.
Oh yeah.
At least he was calling the shots, wrong or right. He was saying, "Let's do this." Of course, we all know what happened.
Have you been on the phone to Binotto? Have you been talking to him? Do we know what's happening? Or
I think ultimately, Dave.
Reply to the text messages.
I think Dave is right, though. I think Sainz, if he wants to get anything as a Ferrari driver, he's going to have to take it into his own hands, really, doesn't he?
Big time. He has to take it away from this shit of whole station. I mean, do you know, it reminds me of the whole kind of, do you remember that the race early 2000s, Schumacher and Barrichello, I think it was. I'm trying to think where it was. I wanted to say it was Brazil. And they do you remember they had to they fucking changed the positions. Remember Barrichello basically had that race won.
Yeah.
And they basically gifted the win to Schumacher. And I don't know, it just has that kind of, we tell you who's going to win this race. We tell you who's going to finish in what position based on our cars if yous are close together. They've never had a history of just let them fucking dog it out on the track. Like, and I think, Carlos Sainz just needs to say, don't even fucking ask on the radio. Just go for it. And then if they start screaming on the radio, just fucking say there's a problem with my radio, and fucking just keep going. Like,
yeah, he needs to do something. Is there, there's nowhere really for him to go though either. That's the problem. Where does he go if Ferrari isn't an option for him anymore?
Sainz.
Yeah.
Red Bull when Perez leaves.
You think that's a good move?
I think it'd be a great move for him. Like, I mean, he'd be allowed race. I'm pretty sure he'd be allowed race anyway. I'm not saying he's going to beat out Max Verstappen, but he's probably going to have a better job than he will in that Ferrari. No, like I would be shocked if that ever happened. But I'm just saying that is a that is an option. Like, but it ain't happening. But
watch this space.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Lando Norris is finally making it into our main question section today and out of our best of the rest section finally. McLaren upgrades to the rescue. However, Lando was superb today and he just deserved his Driver of the Day award, didn't he, Dave?
He was class, really class. I mean, he's just has a history of great results on this track. He just loves it. They brought forward these upgrades. I think were due for Silverstone. I think they were due to have them on both cars in Silverstone, but they brought them forward for just his car today. And I don't know whether it was a combination of just Lando performs well on this circuit, or the upgrades, or a combination of both. But if that's how powerful those upgrades have become, or how powerful those upgrades were for that car. Wow, like I mean that was a huge leap if that's the performance they're expecting. So I'm looking forward to Silverstone because that's a track then that should suit them based off the Austrian circuit. So and Piastri will have it. So it'll definitely be a moment for Piastri now to see where he's at. So yeah, I'm excited now. It'd be great to see McLaren back up the front and sort of mixing it with the even if it's sort of with the Alpines a bit more. That would be great even.
Can we hope for a Lando Norris top 10 finish more frequently, Isidro, or do we think this is just track specific today? I know there was upgrades, obviously. Another one, a second point to this: if McLaren don't start delivering for Lando, how long do you see him sticking around? Is he a lifer there at McLaren, or if a Horner was a knocking, do you think Lando train would be rocking? What do you think?
Well,
you had notes on that one.
I did.
I think the upgrades of McLaren, they've been paying off. We could see a difference between McLaren at the beginning of the season, finished way from the top 10. And for the past 3 races, we've been seeing McLaren's finishing, getting points, and Norris knows that. So in a way, I think he's happy with what McLaren is doing. If McLaren was still finishing 18, 17 by the end of this season, then I'm sure Norris would start looking around and see who's available, and maybe he would be a good option for the second seat of the Red Bull.
Interesting. Dave, weigh in on that one.
Yeah, problem is he signed a long contract, hasn't he? Like, I mean, he only signed that 2 years ago, so he's another 3 years or something left. Like, I mean, who else? I mean, he knows that team so well. They are not going to want to let him go. So I think he's tied there for 3 years. I think he's going to have to serve his contract.
Are contracts not made to be broken?
They are, but by the team, I'm pretty sure the drivers aren't going to have much fucking say in that. Like,
yeah, well, look, we'll see what happens. I do think he's very much a lifer there. Yeah. Okay, moving on from Lando, Fernando today, not quite finding the pace, and the Mercedes-powered Aston Martin. Have we seen the best of the Aston Martin now, or again was it track specific, albeit a P6 finish, not the worst in the world for Fernando, Dave?
They've dropped off, haven't they, since their upgrades? Do you remember the big promising upgrades they were bringing?
Yeah.
And we thought it was the what was it? Was it Canada? Was it they brought the upgrades? And Fernando, hang on a second. Let me just bring up the talk amongst yourselves. Let me bring up the races here, and let me see here.
Yeah, that Alonso finished second in Canada.
It was, yeah. Oh, yeah, it was Stroll then. It was Stroll. Let me just see now. Was it not? Check here. Yeah, I mean, he got second in Canada. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it was Spain. Then he finished 7th and 6th and 7th. That was the upgrades that came, and it didn't do well. Yeah, so they did bad there. Canada, he came second. So I mean, and then today, yeah, I don't know. They weren't a match for anybody really today. They were sort of just tipping along. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think they've made a step forward with those upgrades. I mean, largely was there anything stand out that happened from the Aston Martins today? I mean, there was a bit of a battle between them. I mean, I was a bit annoyed in the sprint race. I thought kind of the sort of the battle towards the end of the race with Stroll and Alonso. I kind of thought, I know Stroll wants the position; it's important to him as well. But I just thought that point meant more to Alonso than it did to Stroll. Like it would have done more for Alonso than it would have for Stroll. So I thought maybe a bit of teamwork there, because Alonso has often held station and not attacked Stroll and left him with the position. I thought that was his opportunity just to repay the favor on a small scale and let Alonso through.
Yeah.
But that aside, in the main race on Sunday today, like yeah, I didn't think there was much there other than, like I said, there's still a bit of a red flag flying about those upgrades.
Yeah. Well, Aston Martin launching the protest then after the race, and a number of drivers in breach of that article, was it 33.3 in the sporting regulations? I said that like it wasn't written down in front of me. Lando and, Lando wasn't actually in the end, but they had called about Lando and Sainz getting another 5-second penalty. 100 laps deleted today for track limits. What is so hard about that turn, the final turn coming onto the pit straight? Sorry, I'm tripping over my words. That has caused so many issues today. Why is that causing so many issues?
That turn 9 and 10 has so much benefit for the pit straight that if you can gain, if you can carry more speed, well, obviously it sounds fucking obvious, but if you can carry more speed out of those corners, then you're probably going to gain possibly the guts of 1/10 of a second by the time you've reached the end of the pit straight. So that's why drivers are pushing it so much to the limit on those particular corners, because it's quite valuable when it comes to the overall, because it's such a short lap as well. So it's quite valuable. And that's all it is. Like, I mean, it's just they're high speed corners. So it's obviously a bit harder to gauge that, at that sort of speed, to balance the limit of that line and carrying as much speed as possible onto the straight. So yeah, I mean, well, like what can you do? I mean, I like the way they enforce the track limits. I mean, people complain. I mean, I saw a lot of people and a lot of other sort of podcasts that I follow and stuff like that, F1 podcasts and stuff, kind of complaining that it was ridiculous. Like I think they were saying that there was 1,200 track limit sort of triggers, events triggered. And they were kind of, oh, this is a joke, it's ridiculous. And then they saw all the penalties that were applied after Aston Martin's protests, that there was 8 additional penalties awarded. But I mean, it's right. There's a track limit there for a reason, because they gain such an advantage if they carry more speed through that corner. I mean, if there was a wall there, I mean, if this was Monaco, what are you going to do? You're going to try and, how are you going to try and squeeze more track limits there? You're going to hit a wall. So, it's just because there's no wall there, the track limits are still in force. And it's probably one of the only tracks on the calendar where it's so sort of strictly enforced. I know we have track limits that sort of seem to float from circuit to circuit, and then on some circuits it kind of floats from corner to corner. Oh, we're going to monitor turn 1 and turn 3 today, and then you get to race day and we're monitoring turn 6 and turn 9. It's so inconsistent. But Austria has always been turn 9 and 10. You go, you just go a hair over that white line, and you're going to get a penalty, and they know it. So I think it's fine. I think it's great. I think it's a character building exercise.
And then Carlos Sainz picking up 10 seconds of penalties. It's a massive risk, but he paid the most today for trying to push it on that corner.
I often wonder as well, when drivers start exceeding the track limits. I'm not sure when he started doing that, but I find that when he, and this might not be the case, but just, tinfoil hat and all that. I always thought that, you're looking at him and you're kind of thinking, I bet he's in that car, like he's sort of, he's after coming out in 6th, I think he did, after his shit double stack pit stop.
Yeah.
And I'd say at that point, all through the race, he's been thinking, well, fuck these guys. Like, they wouldn't let me overtake Leclerc. They fuck up my pit stop. Now I'm in 6th. I've got it all to do. I'm overtaking people. I can show I'm faster. So then you're kind of thinking, is he pushing harder there than he should have, than he maybe necessarily would have, or taking more risks, pushing it to the limit more on those corners? Because he's trying to regain positions and track position that he's lost thanks to his team, that he may not have possibly have done if he wasn't out of position. Maybe not the case. I've just kind of hypothetical, but I mean, lots of other drivers went off there as well. But sometimes you got to think, like, it's often drivers who are pushing for a reason, pushing harder than maybe they should or need to, for a particular reason. And in Sainz's case, I think that reason might have been because he was out of position and he was getting a little heated in that car, and just pushed it a little further than it should have.
Yeah. We touched on them earlier on briefly. Oh, sorry, Isidro, go on.
Just on the track limits, I don't know if you noticed that Alex Albon, when he got the penalty for exceeding track limits, he complained that his engineer never told him anything about track limits. Only when he got the penalty, say, "Oh, you got a penalty for track limits." I mean, he should be saying 1 time, 2 times, 3 times.
I mean,
at
Williams, the guys on the Williams pit wall are probably just sitting there playing Xbox. In fairness, they're not even watching the race.
Yeah, we're not expecting anything here.
Yeah, but you're right. He should have been on to him every single time. I guarantee every other team would have been the same. You're very close. You're after getting a checker or a black and white flag here. And yeah, he was really let down by them today, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's a bad move.
Yeah. Not a good look for them, especially with the guy coming over from what's his name, came over from Mercedes.
Oh, Bowles.
Yeah, you thought there would have been a little bit more control there put in place, but it seems like they're still in the same position they were last year, really. Okay, let's talk about Mercedes. We touched on them earlier on there. I don't know if there's too much more to talk about other than I want to just touch on Lewis's brake issues. Isidro, why don't you take us on this here? He was complaining quite a lot with about the brakes today.
Yeah, he complained almost from the beginning that he was having braking issues, and I think that that made him go over the track limits all the time. At least that was saying, that he couldn't brake, and that's why the car was always going over. So I think that was part of the problem, and that's why Hamilton was complaining all the time. Not even the car being slow, but the fact that it has braking issues didn't help either. We could see at one point Toto Wolff just almost trying to say, "Just shut up and drive. We know that the car is not as fast as we want today, but what do you want to do?" But no, it's just saying, "Yeah, we know. Just keep driving, keep driving,
keep on swimming."
But today Mercedes was not the same Mercedes from last weekend or 2 weekends ago.
Yeah,
there was definitely something wrong with them.
It was last year's Mercedes, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, probably. But I'm surprised that even though with all problems, they still managed to get good positions before all the penalties.
Yeah. Lewis was a frustrated figure today, Dave. Talk a little bit about him there.
But I think everybody, well, probably any Lewis Hamilton fans anyway, are going to say that he's kind of right. I mean, okay, yeah, he's at the end of the day, the car's shit. You just have to fucking, they can't do anything about it in the middle of the race. You're just going to have to deal with it, drive the best you can, and get the best results you can. Understood. And that's easier said than done when you haven't kind of, us as fans have not been sitting in that car and sort of suffering the heartache that Lewis Hamilton has been going through. And not just because he's been given a pile of dog shit to drive around a racetrack, but and then being told promises, "Oh, this, we're doing this and it's going to be better." But the fact that he had already told them last year that the concept was flawed and it was not a runner, and he came out publicly and said that they didn't listen to him, and they went with the old concept for the start of this season, and it was dog shit. And then they tried to now fix it, and they've now gone to sort of more direction that Lewis is comfortable with, or a direction that he wanted to go in. And he was starting to get happy that we started seeing performances. We've said it in previous podcast episode. We were like, Jesus, the Mercedes, they're going to win races this year if they start, keep up this sort of upward trend in the development race. And so you can imagine the positive feelings that were going on that finally, you know, that kind of, oh, I can finally get up for air. And then there's some bollocks up there with his foot, puts it on your head and pushes you back down under the water again, you know?
Yeah.
And that's basically what happened to him today. So Toto can say, oh, shut up and drive all you want. But he has to remember that that's a driver who told you that you didn't listen to him. He told you the fucking problems with this car. We're now halfway through the season and you're only now really trying to address them. You sort of gave him a little bit of promise. He had a bit of fresh air and then you just whipped it away from him. So what did you think he was going to, what sort of emotions did you think he was going to show in that moment? Oh, the team are working well. We're all pulling together back at headquarters, and you know we're all working as a team, and you know let's all link our. No, he's gonna be like, fuck this, like you know. So that's exactly what we heard on the radio. And I'm not a huge Lewis Hamilton fan, but I absolutely agree with him. I can imagine if I was in that car, I'd be fucking getting out and taking a shit in the cockpit as I walk away. It's a pure toilet bowl.
Is the problems today though? Were they just isolated to today? It was just something that came up over the weekend. Or is it a development thing? What do you think?
Absolutely no idea. I completely. I thought this was going to be a circuit that would really suit them,
Yeah,
especially and suit their upgrades. I mean, we'll see as we get closer to our prediction game that we thought this was going to be the case, or that you know that it was going to be more positive. So I genuinely have no idea. I've tried to do a little bit of research before we jumped on here to see if there was any sort of information that has come out. I mean, Toto Wolff has only just said, you know, oh, we hold our hands up, you know, we didn't have a car that was performing well today. And you're like, okay, fair enough, but what the hell happened? Like what? Like, I mean, this come out of left field. Like, this isn't just, you know, you were making strides. Things were going well. What the hell happened?
Yeah.
So yeah, we need to get. Really interesting to find out what happened, and does this roll on to Silverstone? I mean, I think they're going to be a bit more positive in Silverstone. I think they're going to address this. But if they don't, then I don't know what's going on in there. If this continues, that we get the same result in Silverstone, then this is a bigger issue. If they rectify it and we see them battling for the podium, maybe for third in the podium or something like that, then we know that they just got a setup wrong for that upgrade and it just wasn't working for them, and that will be fine. But yeah, if it turns into a shit show in Silverstone, then yeah, they're back in trouble again.
They're going to be working hard this week now to get things right.
Yeah.
Russell with a largely underwhelming impact on proceedings today, but still managed to climb from, say, P11 into some points. He got P8, I think, in the end. But he'll be disappointed to have a pretty anonymous race today, Isidro.
Yeah, we almost didn't hear about Russell in the whole race, and I think that was invisible basically. He finished P7, never complained. I don't remember any specific battle with him. I mean, Paris just flew by and that was it. Russell was quite invisible today.
Dave Russell. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Even with the same Mercedes as Hamilton, so yeah, very slow car.
I love the way you say he never complained, and you're thinking that guy's just he came from Williams before he went to Mercedes. You know, they could have put him in a soapbox and he wouldn't have complained.
Okay, well, we get on to a little bit of the best of the rest. I'm going to give a shout out to Logan Sargent today, who finally had a good race. He got up to the lofty heights of P13. Are we finally seeing a little bit of life out of the young dog? I was about to say the old dog, but the young dog of Logan Sargent, Dave?
No. I think we had, I'm just having a look here. Like, you have the cars that finished behind him. I mean, Jesus, like it's a big super poo behind him. Like, like it's just awful. Like, I'm just like, you have like Tsunoda had an awful race. Magnussen just awful. De Vries gone in 3 races time, no doubt. Piastri is driving the old McLaren spec car, which is terrible. Bottas, okay, fair enough. That's a question mark that he outstripped Bottas, and then Ocon had a 3-place penalty, sort of post race to drop him in behind Logan Sargent. And then you have to remember that Williams is phenomenal in a straight line, and you've got basically 3 massive DRS straights in Austria. So it really suits the Williams. So I think he had there was a combination of that car. This track suited that car really well, and the cars behind him were absolutely just had an absolute crap race. So yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not. I know it's horrible on him. Like, I mean, I should have given him his props. He came P13, but yeah, no.
Looking back through the grid there, if you look who's behind Sargent, you've got Joe, De Vries, Bottas, Piastri, Tsunoda, and Magnussen, all of which had pretty terrible races. There was
Joe finished ahead because you're looking at the results.
The previous is right.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
you had behind him, you had Ocon, Bottas, Piastri, De Vries, Magnussen, and Tsunoda.
Yeah, again, all of which who had shit shows today.
Penalties out of their asses, every last one of them. Like,
yeah, he was really helped by the surroundings. I think that position.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not given. I can't give him credit for the 13th. It wasn't like it was just everybody else just seemed to have a terrible race. Like, you know.
Yeah. I've got one more mention just before we finish up with the race. I'd like to give another shout out to Yuki Tsunoda. He had two really ballsy little dives down the inside of I can't remember who it was. It was the first few corners of the race, and then ultimately he brought out the safety car. I think he went off, but a little shout out for having the guts to do what he did. Did you see his overtakes?
Tsunoda.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting race.
Yeah, I just wanted to give him a little shout out. I thought that was interesting. Usually he's largely, the only thing you hear about Tsunoda is that he's effing and blinding over the radio, but I thought those two little overtakes were great. Other than that, I think there was nothing really else to talk about today, Dave.
Except for the jetpack man who had a face plant on the circuit.
Wasn't going to talk about it.
Sly smile from Piastri is golden. Like, that is just epic. Like,
let's just make sure he was okay after that happened, right?
Oh yeah, he walked away fucking pumping the air with his fist, like, like a hero, like, but it was Piastri's face when it happened, just like, oh. Brilliant.
Okay, I think that's probably the last we'll see of Jetpack Man in Austria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so before we go on though, we have to give I think we know who the driver of the day is for both of us, for all of us, but driver of the day and biggest loser of the day. So Scotty, let's go in order.
I'm going to say driver of the day, Lando Norris. Yeah, definitely. My loser of the day, probably Valtteri Bottas. I thought he was unlucky to get clipped and he dropped way back. He was losing downforce. So I think he was probably the biggest loser for me today.
All right, I'm going with, obviously, same Lando Norris, but my biggest loser of the day is Nico Hülkenberg. I thought, he was rolling along there in the top 10, and then obviously some engine issue sent him out. So, Zero.
Norris as driver of the day, although Perez is quite close to Norris.
Yeah.
And loser, I'll say K-Mag. It was really not his day today.
K-Mag over Hülkenberg. At least K-Mag finished.
Well, it was not Hülkenberg fault for the engine.
All right. So actually, before we go on to the predictions game, I'll just quickly do a recap of the Fantasy League. Oh, God, the news that you all want to hear. I'm doing shit. I'm down into 9th. Stop Inventing is still at number 1. Good Lord. Team Trek number 2. We've got a new entry at number 3. Zanetta, Team 1. I'm down to 9th. Let's see, what other big movers have we got down there? Good Lord, where are you boys? Isidro's dropped down to 18th, and Scotty, you are at 19th.
Oh, brilliant.
Sorry, I have my wife poking me in the ear to inform me that she is now in 6th. Ahead of me by 3 places.
Fair play, Jing. Well done.
God damn it. All right. So the predictions game. Let's get on to business.
That was another shit show.
Well, you know what? Dave was so close on something, and I just checked it. I had to check it when I looked at it. Sickening for you now, I have to say. Absolutely sickening.
What was I close on? All right. Okay. I'll
Oh
call
no,
out the-
sorry. It was the wrong car. I thought it was Mercedes. It said something else. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no. So, okay. So I had my top 10 was or top 3, top 10. Jesus Christ. We'd have people falling asleep. My top 3 was Verstappen, P1. Well, that was inevitable. Alonso, P2. That did not happen. And Hamilton, P3. That most certainly did not happen.
My top 3, Verstappen P1, yes. Hamilton P2, no. Russell P3, no. Also,
Well, that's fantastic. And a 0 copied my homework.
Verstappen first, Alonso second, and Hamilton third.
Excellent. Well, that was a pretty
Disappointment.
good clusterfuck from all of us. We got Verstappen right, which we have. I think all of us have had Verstappen pretty much for the whole season. So it was inevitable that was going to happen. So my flop, I went with Leclerc with a crash, and that did not happen. Nobody's crashing these days. What's going on?
no, it's gone out of fashion. I went for Sainz and reliability, and that did not
Did
happen.
not happen either.
Nope.
And
And-
Sainz DNF, that didn't happen either.
Jesus.
Terrible, absolutely terrible.
All right. My surprise, I went with both McLarens with a P8 and P9.
Yeah, that's what I thought I thought it said both Mercedes P8, P9, and I had to go check it.
Do you know, had Piastri had the upgrades, that's a result that may have come close.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
No.
I went for Nico Hulkenberg top 10, and it was on until it wasn't.
Yeah. And a 0.
I got that one, P9.
So this is a very underwhelming end to to the Australian Grand Prix. We all got fucking nothing, pretty much. We all got Verstappen, and that was it. That is probably one of our worst performances.
It's pretty terrible.
That is a bad one. So it's a draw. We share the points. That leaves me on 4 points. Scotty still at the top of the table on 5 points, and a 0 on 3 points.
How am I winning this? It's ridiculous.
I don't know. Look, my wife's in 6th place in the league ahead of me. On that, like, I've lost all fucking faith in my decision making. Okay, right. Silverstone. Let me crack open my. Have I just deleted my? Oh no, there they are. I thought I just deleted my predictions for this week. Okay, I am. Oh, I'm going absolutely fucking completely fucking outside the box here. Not with my P1. I mean, it's inevitable. It's going to be Verstappen.
Yeah.
However, I tied with this now for the P2 and P3, and I think I'm just going to have to lock it in. But I'm going for a Russell P2.
Ooh.
And a Hamilton P3. I'm just gonna say they'll fix the issues. I was gonna throw a Lando Norris in there. I'm predicting rain for Silverstone. I just thought Lando Norris might be a good shout if that McLaren does well. But no, I'm gonna go outside the box there. So what do you got, Scotty?
Funny you should mention Lando Norris. I have Lando Norris P1. No, I don't. I have Max Verstappen P1. I actually have Carlos Sainz P2. And a Lando Norris P3.
Sainz and Norris P3.
Because I believe Sainz won this last year, didn't he?
That's not the thing I'm having an issue with. I know I said I was going with Lando Norris P3, but I hope it happens.
I'm going ballsy. I have to do something different here.
Yeah. It's a bit boring just going with the same fucking.
Yeah.
All right, Isidro, have you gone with the same ones as last week?
Verstappen first, Perez second, Hamilton third.
Oh, you're just well, you've got Hamilton in there. You're taking a little bit of a risk. I just don't think the Ferraris are going to do anything next weekend. I could be proven completely wrong on that one. So my surprise. Oh no, we're on flops. Sorry, I'm going with Perez with a DNF, and I'm not calling what. I'm just going with a DNF. So it could be. I know we have a 2-pointer if you predict whether it was a crash or a reliability. Fuck it, Perez crash. I'll go for the 2 points.
Interesting. I'm going to go for big air here again. I'm going to say Hamilton DNF.
You going for the 2 points, or you're going to stick with one?
I'm going to stick with one. It's too vague.
Fair enough. All right, Isidro.
Sainz DNF.
And just sticking with the DNF, you're not going to call it? No one's willing to call their shots anymore. What would Babe Ruth do? All right, Sainz DNF. I'll be honest. Anyone listening in America, I know fuck all about baseball, so I have no idea whether Babe Ruth used to call his shots or not. I'm sure it's someone in baseball. All right, my surprise is Alex Albon, top 10.
Ooh, an old classic.
Yeah, resurrecting him from the dead. I nearly went with Schumacher.
Okay, I'm going to say Guan Yu Zhou, top 10 finish.
Joe, top 10. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, just throwing it out there.
Albon, top 10.
Yeah. That's pretty solid. I think the surprises are pretty safe. Flops, we've all fucking thrown caution to the wind. And to be honest, some of our fucking top 3, we throw caution to the wind as well. So
yeah,
it should be interesting. Well, that's it for this week. We've ranted enough. I don't even know how long we've been ranting for. It feels like we've been here for about 3 days. But I'm looking forward to Silverstone. Hopefully the McLarens, the Mercedes, everybody's back on form. Hopefully Aston Martins are back on form as well. And we're in for an exciting race. There's a prediction of rain as well. So we will see you for the race review on the Monday. Goodbye.